This is Metformin. It's one of the most commonly prescribed drugs for type 2 diabetes. And this is Glumetza. Same drug, same molecule. The only real difference? Price. While the first one costs $20 a month, the second costs $1,000 a month. Why such a massive gap? The answer to that question is the same reason India supplies 40% of all generic drugs to the United States.
4 out of 10 generics in the US is made in India.
And it's not just America. India is the largest provider of generic drugs globally and the third largest pharmaceutical manufacturer in the world by volume.
The big theme about Indian pharmaceuticals has been that it's the world's pharmacy. We've become the global generic giant of the world.
Here's what makes this truly remarkable. India barely made any drugs before 1970. So how did India transform from having almost no pharmaceutical industry to becoming the pharmacy of the world? Something even China hasn't achieved.
I think it's quite phenomenal.
That's what we explore in this video. If you're new here, please subscribe to Periscope. Let's dive in. India's pharmaceutical story begins in 1947, with a country newly independent but deeply vulnerable. Most Indians had little access to essential medicines. The domestic industry was small and powerless. Almost the entire market was dominated by foreign players. 8 of the top 10 companies were Western multinationals from the UK, France, and Germany, controlling nearly 90% of all drug sales. Indian firms mostly acted as distributors, not innovators, because product patents made nearly every important drug too expensive to manufacture locally. To reduce this dependency, the government tried establishing public sector companies like Hindustan Antibiotics Limited and another Soviet-assisted venture. But these could not meet the scale or complexity of India's needs. The industry remained underdeveloped and medicines remained out of reach for millions. The real push for change emerged unexpectedly from a patent dispute over a blood pressure drug. In the 1960s, a British company launched propranolol, a revolutionary beta blocker. But the drug's high price made it inaccessible for India. Cipla stepped in and reverse engineered it, offering an affordable version. The British manufacturer objected, and the matter reached the Indian government. Cipla's R&D chief, Yusuf Hamid, defended the move directly before Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, arguing that access to essential medicines could not be dictated by foreign monopolies. Gandhi agreed, and this set the stage for the Patent Act of 1970. The 1970 law abolished product patents for pharmaceuticals and chemicals and replaced them with process patents. Companies could now legally manufacture the same drug as long as they used a different method of making it. Patent terms were slashed to 5 to 7 years. This radical reform unlocked India's ability to produce low-cost medicines without violating the law. This single decision rewired the future of Indian pharma. With process patents now legal, Indian companies discovered a path that didn't depend on billion-dollar R&D investments. They focused on reverse engineering. Global breakthroughs could be studied, recreated, and manufactured at a fraction of the cost. The results were extraordinary. Indian firms produced a generic version of ibuprofen 6 years after its global launch. When Bayer introduced ciprofloxacin in 1986, India had a generic ready within 3 years. By the late 1980s, Indian chemists could replicate most modern molecules without access to the original formula. By 2006, India was producing 95% of the medicines consumed in the country. It was one of the world's fastest and most successful cases of import substitution. but it came with downsides. The industry's rapid rise created problems. It became vast in volume but low in profitability. By 1990, nearly 16,000 pharmaceutical companies existed, fragmented, hyper-competitive, and racing on razor-thin margins. Some molecules had over 100 branded versions. Price competition was so brutal that R&D became a luxury few were willing to fund. Exports grew, but primarily for low-value generics that could not enter higher-margin regulated markets like the United States or Europe. India needed to evolve again, this time toward a more innovation-friendly environment. That opportunity came in the 1990s. In 1992, India signed the TRIPS agreement, committing to gradually restore product patents and align with global intellectual property rules. The industry was sharply divided. Critics feared that a return to product patents would choke off access to affordable drugs. Supporters believed India had no choice if it wanted to enter advanced global markets and build world-class companies. India was given until 2005 to complete the transition. Over those 13 years, everything changed. Indian companies began investing in drug discovery, new delivery systems, and clinical research. Patent filings rose from single digits in the early 1990s to more than 200 in the early 2000s. Firms pursued global partnerships and acquisitions to strengthen their scientific and commercial capabilities. But when 2005 finally arrived, the world expected India's generics miracle to collapse. India had other plans. When India reintroduced product patents in 2005, it added a legal safeguard that would redefine global pharmaceutical policy, Section 3D. This clause prevented companies from obtaining new patents for minor modifications of existing drugs unless they demonstrated significantly improved therapeutic efficacy. It was designed to block evergreening, a strategy used to extend monopolies without real innovation. Section 3B soon came into the global spotlight during the Novartis Glivec case. Novartis applied for a new patent on a modified form of its cancer drug. India rejected the application, and the Supreme Court upheld the decision. The implications were profound. Globally, the drug cost over 1,17,000 rupees per month. In India, it remained around 8,000. The ruling protected millions of patients and signaled that India would uphold global IP standards without compromising access. Another landmark moment came with Bayer's cancer drug Nexavar, priced at 2,80,000 rupees per month.
Unfortunately, this treatment comes with a huge price tag. It costs about $69,000 a year at minimum. So instead of having to pay $69,000 for it, the people of India can get it for $177, which is a huge difference.
India invoked compulsory licensing under Section 90, allowing Natco Pharma to produce and sell it at just 8,800 rupees, a staggering 97% price reduction. It was entirely legal under TRIPS and demonstrated India's commitment to balancing innovation with public health. These cases proved that even under a product patent regime, India retained sovereignty over affordability, access, and fairness. Once patents were aligned with global norms, India gained entry into markets that were previously inaccessible. Indian companies, hardened by decades of intense domestic competition, now brought world-class manufacturing quality and some of the lowest production costs in the world. Exports surged. Dr. Reddy's Laboratories increased its export share from just over half in the early 2000s to nearly 3/4 by the mid-2000s. Some companies now export more than 97% of what they make. India today supplies 40% of all generics used in the United States. The industry's footprint has grown nearly eightfold since the mid-2000s. But challenges remain. India depends heavily on China for key active pharmaceutical ingredients, importing about 70% of them. Chinese antibiotic imports have tripled since 2005. When China shut down during the 2020 pandemic, India's entire pharmaceutical supply chain came under pressure. This dependence has become a major strategic risk. India is now trying to correct. It's important to note that this wasn't always the case, and India used to be a very strong API manufacturer during the 1990s. However, given Chinese subsidies, Indian API couldn't remain cost competitive, something that India government is now trying to change using various tools like PLI schemes. The rise of India's pharmaceutical industry is one of the most extraordinary transformations in modern economic history. It is the story of a country that broke multinational monopolies, mastered reverse engineering, built scale, embraced global patent rules, protected patient access through innovative legal defenses, and then emerged as the world's leading generics powerhouse. India didn't follow ideology. It followed what worked. It moved step by step, adjusting to global realities while staying anchored to domestic needs. From dependency to dominance, from copycats to global leaders. This is the remarkable evolution of Indian pharma. If you love this story, please hype it up. And for more such stories, subscribe to Periscope.